Hello, this is News Plus and Viewer Television. I'm Joy Malik. Now, President Muhammad Buhari has rejected a proposal from the two All Progressive Congress state governors to adopt a certain aspirant as the next national chairman of the party during the February 26th convention. Now, Buhari asked the two governors to take their proposal to the party's caretaker extraordinary convention planning committee, their fellow governors and other party leaders for consideration. The backdoor approach of the two governors is said to have widened the cracks in the Progressive Governors Forum, which is scheduled to hold a make-or-break meeting in Abuja on the zoning of party offices. Now, the PGF's proposal is expected to be relayed to Buhari by tomorrow for a final decision by him. Several APC governors and members of the CECPC are understood to have been upset by the conduct of their two colleagues who allegedly sought to sell their favored candidate to the president through the back door. Members of the CECPC members saw the action of the two governors as a move to undermine the caretaker committee. Now, the federal government has accused the Canadian government and Twitter of double standard in the way they classify violent protesters in Nigerian and in Western clime. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, made the accusation at a meeting briefing in his hometown in Kwara State. The minister was reacting to the unfolding events in Canada, where truckers were protesting over COVID-19 vaccine mandate and other COVID-19 restrictions. Mohammed said Canada and Twitter, which had called the hoodlums who destroyed public and private property in Nigeria during the NSAS as peaceful protesters, turned around to tag similar protesters in their own countries as insurrectionists and terrorists. He further called on Nigerians to be circumspect of the glaring double standard and should be ready at all times to protest their country from destruction. He said Nigerians must put their country first at all times and should not allow anyone to destroy their country under the guise of protest or unbridled freedoms. The minister reiterated the position that the government never regretted the action it took against Twitter and the outcome of the subsequent negotiation with the microblogging sites. Now, the Bureau of Public Service Reform says plans are on the way to train 500,000 public servants on digitization and information technology to improve service delivery. Now, Dasuki Arabi, the Director General of the Bureau, disclosed this when he featured at the news agency of Nigeria Forum in Abuja. Arabi said that the Bureau was working with the U.S. government and other key private sector agencies to ensure the training of public servants on digitization and use of IT, among others. He said that the federal government had approved an e-government master plan agenda for digitization of the processes and provision of the hardware's connectivity that civil servants needed to work with. He said that the aspiration of the reforms was the Nigerian public service to be among the first 20 in the world by the year 2025. He said that the year 2030, the Nigerian public service should be paperless and fully digitized. And on youth employment, the federal government has created 750,000 jobs for youth to close the unemployment gap in the country. Now, the Director General Bureau of Public Service Reforms, Dasuki Arabi, made this known in Abuja. Now, Arabi, who is also the chairman, Technical Working Committee on Youth Employment, said the invention followed an interface with the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. Arabi said the establishment of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs was part of the government effort to provide succor for the unemployed and downtrodden before they finally got engaged. He said a lot of work was being done to support small and medium enterprises to make it easier for citizens to access the support and assistance given to them. The Independent National Electoral Commission says it plans to review the performance and functionalities of the Bimoda voter accreditation system during Saturday's FCT area council poll. The FCT INEC President Electoral Commissioner Yahaya Bello said this when he spoke with newsmen in Abuja. Bello said that the Commission had observed challenges faced by voters due to the non-functionality of the BVAS and was working to address them. Bello stated that 6 INEC resident electoral commissioners and 3 national commissioners were drafted to the election to ensure its success. And on name verification, the National Identity Management Commission has said that the National Identification Number Verification Service portal has been fully restored. Now, this was made known by its head of corporate communications, Kayode Adegoke, in a statement made available to the press. Thousands of telecommunication subscribers nationwide seeking to retrieve their lost subscriber identity module cards or acquire new lines were left stranded following a technical glitch in the NRMC portal that has grounded SIM-related services. The affected NRMC portal enables telecom firms, the Nigerian Immigration Service, banks, and other organizations to verify the national identity number of their customers before attending to them, in line with the federal government's directive. Now, over the past couple of days, the portal breakdown has affected telecommunication companies, banks, and government agencies, such as the Nigerian Immigration Service, which rely on the service to verify the name of their customers before attending to them. The NRMC, however, expressed gratitude to Nigerians and promised to be innovative in its service to ensure quality delivery. Now let's go on a quick break, and when we return, News Plus continues. Do stay tuned. Welcome back if you're just joining us. This is News Plus and Viewer Television. Now let's take it to Lagos State, where a building under construction has collapsed in the Yawa area of Lagos State, with 3 dead bodies recovered and 2 others rescued alive, as some workers are still reportedly trapped under the rubble. Now, this was confirmed by the Zonal Coordinator, Southwest National Emergency Management Agency, Ibrahim, in Lagos. The NEMA top official said that the building was said to have given signs with rubble falling from it on Thursday. The zonal coordinator, however, said that a proper investigation of the cause of the collapse will be carried out by the state government to determine the cause of the collapse after the emergency phase at the site. Meanwhile, the Lagos state government said it has arrested the developer of the property and handed him over to the IRS team for breaking the government seal on the property and violating the stop work order. And on industrial action, as Nigerians await the decision of the Academic Staff Union of Universities on its latest strike threats, tension has heightened on campuses over the possibility of the lecturers embarking on another round of strike. While a good number of universities were preparing for examinations, some others, including University of Abuja, however, concluded plans to hold a convocation ceremony. However, sources within the school says the convocation may be postponed should ASU carry out its threats. ASU had expressed grievances over the failure of the federal government to fulfill some of the agreements it signed as far back as 2009. Now, the union had, on November 15, 2021, given the federal government a 3-week ultimatum over the failure to meet the demands. The lecturers threatened to embark on another round of industrial action following alleged government unfaithfulness and the implementation of the memorandum of action it signed with the union, leading to the suspension of the 2020 strike action. Candidates willing to participate in the 2022 Senior School Certificate Examinations organized by the Senior Examination Council will be registered offline and validated via their respective state offices of NECO. Now, the council made this known in the new registration guideline made available to newsmen in Abuja. In the past years, students willing to partake in an internal and external SSCE organized by the council had to purchase scratch cards for the purpose of registration. The cards were provided by the board and made available for tokens at schools and registration centers. But the council stated that this would not be the case for the 2022 SSCE. And on news around the world, Claire Mitchell and Zoe are fighting for pardons for all those executed for witchcraft in Scotland, the vast majority of whom were women, and for a memorial to those forgotten by history. In total, more than 2,500 people were executed for witchcraft in Scotland, 4/5 of them women. They were mostly strangled and then burned after making confessions that were often extracted under torture. They are recognized in the wind-blown 16th century cemetery by a small column nicknamed the Wincher's Stone. Now, passers-by often leave flower petals and coins as a tribute to those executed, who include Grisel Jeffrey, strangled and burnt in 1669. In the city center street, a mosaic depicting a corn of flames commemorates Jeffrey, the woman known as the Last Winch of Dundee. Now, today, the activists of the Collective Winches of Scotland are fighting to bring them justice, while the Parliament is set to adopt a bill to pardon the victims of the winch hunt in the territory.
Across the world, generally vulnerable, often women or old people that are being accused of witchcraft and in some cases being killed by mob justice.
So the mosaic denotes the fact that she was burnt as a witch to get rid of her ashes. There was a belief that if you didn't get rid of every part of a witch, that they might coming from the French, revenir, to return.
But, we need to make no mistake about this. In those days, people believed really, really strongly in the devil. They really felt they were operating in a world in which the devil was out to get them, and that women were weak vessels, basically, who the devil could act through. So that's why women tended to get accused, because women were seen as being somebody that the devil could manipulate easily, whereas men could withstand, the devil's advances.
And on COVID-19, the Canadian truckers' anti-COVID rules convoy is reviving up following the occupation of acute trade routes and the Prime Minister's warning of several consequences for those involved. Now, outside the Canadian Parliament, however, a number of supporters of the protests serve up coffee, eggs and sausages to truckers who are denouncing COVID restrictions and are hawked down for a long stay in the Canadian capital. The truckers have raised the stakes by blockading the Ambassador Bridge, across which 1/4 of all Canadian-US trade flows. Meanwhile, authorities have announced a state of emergency, threatening fines of up to $80,000 for protesters.
Cause, puis personnellement, je trouve que ça pourrait être une des causes les plus importantes de ma vie. Fait que moi, je suis motivé à venir ici chaque journée que je suis capable, je viens.
Thank you in return for what they've done for us. So it's cold nights and it's long days, and so any little thing that I can do to say thank you.
Now let's take it to Germany, where German President Frank-Walter was re-elected for a second term of 5 years by a special parliamentary assembly on Sunday and vowed to heal the wounds left by the coronavirus and fight the enemies of democracy. Now, the president was elected with a big majority by a special assembly made up of the members of parliament's lower house and representatives of Germany's 16 states. Now, Stimmel had been endorsed by most mainstream political parties ahead of the election for the largely ceremonial head of state. In reaction to the escalating crisis on the border of Ukraine, where Russia has massed well over 100,000 troops, Steinmeier warned that we are in the midst of the danger of a military conflict or war in Eastern Europe. Russia bears the responsibility for this. Now, the re-elected president vowed that he would continue to work to strengthening democracy in Germany and help take away fears of the future. Giving the country's citizens the confidence to handle the challenges ahead, he also vowed to help heal wounds created by the coronavirus pandemic. Now, Ukrainian president has said that warnings of the imminent Russian attacks on his country were stoking panic and demanded to see firm proof of a planned invasion. Now, Zelensky's comment comes a day after U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan warned that a Russian attack on its western neighbor could begin at any time. Now, Ukrainian leaders have been trying to talk down the prospect of an all-out war because of the damaging effects it was having on the country's territory, economy, and public morale. Weeks of tensions have seen Russia surround its western neighbor with more than 100,000 troops. Moscow is demanding binding security guarantees from the West that includes a pledge to roll NATO forces out of Eastern Europe and never expand into Ukraine. Earlier Saturday, the United States ordered all non-emergency Kyiv embassy staff to leave Ukraine because of the threat of invasion. The Pentagon later said that nearly all remaining U.S. soldiers would leave Ukraine as tensions soared.
Like a president, and say people truth, and the truth that we have different information. And now the best friend for enemies, that is panic in our country. And all this information that helps only for panic doesn't help us.
And lastly, Spain and Portugal are suffering from a record-breaking dry spell. Now, it is the driest January for over 20 years and water reserves are running low. The drought has farmers worried across the region as climate change leads to rising temperatures. Residents are concerned that things will only get worse. The crisis even threatens the region's renewable energy generation, like Portugal's hydropower dams, which generate nearly 30% of the country's electricity.
Ni siquiera al 30%. Y también en el nordeste de la península ibérica, en la otra punta, en Cataluña, también los embalses están claramente por debajo de su capacidad. En general, en el conjunto de España...
É regada uma vez por semana, ou assim, porque os nascentes estão fracos, muito fraquinhos. Toda esta zona que não é regada, o pasto não cresce. Não cresce e os animais...
E a de baixo está igual.
Preocupa esta situação?
Preocupa, pois nada preocupar.
And that's all on News Plus. Do stay tuned for the rest of our programs. I wish you all a happy Valentine's Day. Many thanks for watching.